Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Salatu wassalam ala Rasulullah. Wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam tasliman kathira wa ba'. So, we're continuing with the hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, which can be easily, properly translated as actions. Indeed, they are by motives, purposes, goals, aims, and then they like to use the word intention. And we mentioned before in the first segment of the Maghrib that there are two wordings. One is in Bukhari, one is in Muslim. One is in Bukhari and one is in Muslim. The one of them that's famous, people normally say إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Niyat is plural. Yani purposes, actions, intentions. Purposes, aims, goals, intentions. But you also have niyyah, which is singular, action. I keep saying action. I won't say the second part so bad. Purposes is plural, niyat. Intentions, plural, niyat. Goals, plural, niyat. But the singular niyyah just means a goal, a purpose, a aim like this. So if you hear someone saying niyyah, or you're used to saying niyat, don't think he's making a mistake. They're both right. And so Umar, he said that he heard the Messenger of Allah say, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. The scholars of the Arabic language, including Imam-nawwawi himself, he has an explanation of his own hadith. He said this, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. إِنَّمَا is normally for making something restricted. It's making something absolute, and also, as the ulama they say, in the Arabic language, it also negates something else is taking place. So they give the example. They use Zayd. They like to use Zayd in the Arabic language, for example. So they say, Inna qama Zaydun. Inna qama Zaydun. So inna means verily. Qama is when you stand up. And Zaydun is the one who's doing the standing. So they said if you say this in Arabic as a sentence, then this does not negate that someone else may be standing along with Zayd. But if you say innama qamu Zaydun, if you use innama, then this means, they say yufid al-hasr. That means no one else is standing illa Zayd, except Zayd. So they said this is the reason the Prophet ﷺ said innama al-a'malu, because he wants to make it that actions are only by intentions. There's no other way to understand it. And so the scholars give two definitions to this phrase. They say this was either meant liyukarrib ila Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, that actions are only by the purpose of drawing close to Allah, meaning you can't just do something and you get the reward from Allah like it's worship. You have to know that I'm doing this to get the reward from Allah. If you have that intention, then that's what you'll get. The other meaning is that every action, whether it be to draw close to Allah or not, it has to be a purpose behind it. And the ulama, they say concerning this thus, al-aqil mukhtar yanbaghi an yakun niyyah. They say the one who has intellect and he's able to choose, then he must have a purpose, he must have an aim, he must have a intention. They said because if Allah didn't make an intention like this, just imagine, things would just be haywire. Imagine like someone who's, as we say, the pen is lifted, he's majnoon. He's over here, he's over there, he's doing this, he's doing that. He has no order to what he's doing because he himself can't make a clear aim, a clear goal, a clear intention. But us, you can choose to sit down. You can choose to get up. You can choose let me shut the light off. So this is one of the reasons they said that the Prophet said, innamal a'malu bin niyat, that every action has a purpose. You actually make a conscious choice with every action. The other meaning is that if you're going to do actions to seek reward from Allah, then that has to be la riya wa la sum'ah. Can't be any showing off involved, any doing it so people can praise you and you're in the spotlight. Because if so, then that action will be null and void. It has to be only for Allah. And this is the meaning of innama. This is yufid al-hasr. It makes something absolute only for that particular thing that you intend. And so thus, the reason for Sallam said innama a'mal bin niyat, they said because then in that case, every action has to be weighed by its intention. They said, therefore, the mahalaha qalb, the place for intention, as we mentioned the verse before, in Maghrib, where Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala said, قُلْ إِن تُخْفُوا مَا فِي صُدُورِكُمْ أَوْ تُبْدُوهُ يَعْلَمَهُ اللَّهُ. You don't need to say, Allahumma inni nawaitu an nusalli arba rak'ah salat al-isha. Oh Allah, I'm aiming right now to make 4 rak'ah of isha. Allah, He already knows. They said, therefore, the Prophet ﷺ didn't do that. You don't need to say, inni nawaitu an atawadda li salat al-dhuhr. Oh Allah, I'm intending to make wudu right now for dhuhr. You don't need to. Allah, He knows. It says, so the Prophet didn't say, I'm intending to do any action for wudu, for salat, for zakat, for hajj. And even though you say labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, you're not saying Allahumma inni nawaitu an hajj. Oh Allah, I'm intending to make hajj. You're actually making a proclamation. This is the difference between niyyah in that sense and announcing something proclamation. So the irony of this is that this is a tremendous statement. The Prophet said, "Innama a'malu binniyat." And many scholars say the reason he said a'malu because this includes different types of actions, such as you have amal al-qalb, you have actions of the heart, like fear. That's something you do, but it's a thing that's connected and it's inside the heart. Wa taqwa wa khawf min Allah, the piety and the fear of staying away from what Allah told you to stay away from and doing what's commanded by Allah. That's an action of the heart. Yani raqba, yani to desire something. Raja'a, yani hope. All of those, they say amalu qalbiyya. They're actions that are done with the heart. You also have al-amalu jawarih, actions of the limbs, the legs, the arms, the eyes, the head moves, like we just made salah. They said this is an action of the limbs, as well as the action of the heart at the same time, because the heart has to be involved. If the heart is not involved, then the salah is, futile. And then you have al-amalu, yani nutq al-lisani. Things, lisan means tongue, that you say. And they say this is the most active part of the body, subhanallah, and the most destructive, the tongue. Because it's moving more than anything else. Did you see how much I'm talking? Astaghfirullah. So they say this is why the Prophet said a'malu rather than amalu. Amalu is singular. A'malu is plural, means actions. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he went on to say, وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ مِمَّا نَوَى. And for every individual, he will have what he seeks. There's an argument about this. Is this emphasizing the first sentence, or is it a second sentence by itself? The scholars, they say, al-aslu fi kalam and yakun tansis. The basis of the speech in the Arabic language is that every sentence must be separate. It's not something that you will emphasize with two different sentences. Yeah, with a word you can emphasize. But two completely different sentences, that second sentence can never be understood as emphasis. They are both separate. And they say one of them is the intention that you make, as the Prophet clearly said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, clearly showing you your intention. And then he said, وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ مِمَّا نَوَى. They said this is the natija, the product of what you have after you decide to do something. You will have just what you sought out to have. And then the Prophet gave the example, Man kana hijratuhu ila Allah wa rasulih, hijratuhu ila Allah wa rasulih. So whoever made a migration because Allah said so and the messenger, and seeking what Allah and his messenger wanted, they're going to have that reward. They're not going to have a reward like a person traveled to do business, to sell 50,000 pounds of gold. He's not going to have the same reward. And so the Prophet illustrated that's the when he said, فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِلدُّنْيَا. So whoever makes a trip or migrates for worldly gain, and that's not that it's blameworthy, because he wouldn't have never said if it was blameworthy like this. أو امرأة أو لامرأة ينكحها, or for a lady to marry her. فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. Then that person will have just what he sought out to have in his trip, in his migration. And the scholar said the reason in the end the Prophet made it general is to not make the one who migrates for worldly things feel bad. He said, فَهِجْرَتُهُ, but you don't know in this clause what his migration was for. Like in the beginning, he said, for worldly affair and marrying a lady, and then before they said the messenger and for Allah. And the end, he said, فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجْرَ إِلَيْهِ. Then he'll get what he intended. To show that migrating for something worldly is not blameworthy, but at the same time, it cannot be equivocated to migrating for something of the religion. And it's possible that the person migrates for something of religion, and he gets dunya, and he gets a wife, and he gets all of those things. But the reward for the worldly thing is not the same as the reward for something tied to the hereafter. And this is a brief explanation of that hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about intention. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى نية الصالح ونية الخالص له لوجه الكريم. Ask Allah to give us a clear and pure intention when we do things for His sake, and when we do things for other than His sake, that it's a good choice and a good reason behind it. Inshallah tabarak wa ta'ala. How much time left? Nothing?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Any questions or comments, corrections?
Yes.
Fadal.
As you try to see the reward, like you use the example for like wudu.
Yes.
And you already established your mind you want to make wudu.
Yes.
But you just consciously just doing it because you know that's something required to do.
Yeah.
But you don't really have that sharp focus that you possibly could benefit to have by seeking the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just doing it because you know you got to have it for prayer. Is there anything I'm missing if I do that?
No, you're not. You're doing just what the Prophet explained. The whole concept. Is somebody in the back, women? Nobody?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. I wasn't sure because somebody came with their wife earlier, and I thought I just heard the mic go off. Maybe
You
somebody.
just cut it off, that's all.
Yeah, but nobody's back there. Okay. No, the issue is nothing mystery or spooky when you talk about the niyyah. It's simply when you decide to do something, the reason you're doing it is the reward you're going to get. Like, for example, you just said wudu. Okay, you can make wudu just because you just like to make wudu. But if you're making it for the 5 salat, who is the 5 salat prayed to? Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So therefore, your intention to make that wudu for the salah is not like you just like to be in wudu or to be clean. And if you're doing that because Allah, He loves those who are clean, then guess what? Then that reward is similar to the one for making wudu for the 5 salah. The same thing, you go to sleep at night. Sleep is a customary thing. But if you go to sleep because I'm tired, I worked all day, you're not going to get the reward like the one who's going to sleep. He worked. He's tired all day, but he's going to bed at 10:30 rather than 12:30 or 1 because he wants to get up and pray in the night. Is the reward going to be the same then? And does he have to say, oh, I'm going to bed at 9:30, 9:45 so that I can get up and pray in the night? No. His actions denotes what he's doing, what he intends. So you have to be cautious and know what you're doing. Cognitive of that fact. If you're going to do something, make, as we say in clear English, make up your mind. I'm doing this. It's from the religion, and I'm doing it to get a reward from Allah, and I'm going to do it the way the Prophet ﷺ said do it. Then this is the way that you measure your reward. You do it if it's ibadah, something Allah He loves, He likes. That's the first thing. 2, you do it for Him, not to be praised, not to show off. And then thirdly, you do it the way that it has been laid down by the Prophet, and you're safe with your intention. So 3 steps. Do it if it's something Allah He loves, He's pleased with. That means it's ibadah. Find that out first. Then, number 2, make sure that you're doing it to seek reward from Him, not reward from anybody else, or stage, or praise. And then the last one, make sure you're doing it in accordance with the way of your messenger, and this is the way that you conquer the niyyah. بارك الله فيكم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك. تفضل. Yes.
It applies to something that you do consciously, because
Yes.
then you have intention, then you
Yes.
do it consciously.
Yes.
But sometimes human nature as it is, if you do something impulsively, impulsively by definition means that you didn't have time to think, you did it just impulsively. A good deed, impulsively.
Yeah.
Didn't have a chance to declare intention, kind of a thing, and you did a good thing impulsively, so what would it count actually, because you didn't have a chance to declare the intention?
That wouldn't be the same as
It's a tricky
someone
question.
consciously doing something. Yeah, this would be something that either you could go back and reevaluate and change at that point, or if it turned out to be a good or bad consequence, then you deal with the consequence of it. But like, for example, like you just mentioned something, somebody scares you and you throw your hand up and you accidentally hit somebody on accident. You didn't mean to.
No,
You'll be forgiven for that automatically because that wasn't the intention. But if you intend to do something, this is when Allah will hold you accountable.
I mean, you saw somebody poor actually, and you didn't have time to think. You impulsively gave them something.
But later on, if you say, "Man, I meant to, but I wasn't thinking at the time,"
Right.
then you'll get a reward for that because you meant to, but just at that time you weren't thinking about it.
Right.
Yeah, it slipped your mind like this. Yeah. So it won't be anything held against you in that regard. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best knower. Jazakum Allah khair. Wa sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. Jazakum Allah khair. Assalamu alaikum.